The obvious question on the literature review is now, where are we going to get this information? And the most obvious place these days is going to be via some or other online source. And we're going to look at here is online literature searches. Now, obviously, before online was a thing, everyone used to get their data from books, magazines, and print media. This is still possible, but it's not as effective as the online search tools that we have at our disposal these days. The print media is often online as well, so you can just use online as your online as your one-stop shop for all your literature searches. The purpose of the online literature search is obviously to be able to efficiently locate the relevant scholarly material. What we want to learn how to do is explore what recent publications there are in our field, what are the advancements, but also how can we actually sort out through these thousands and thousands of sources as to what is good and what is bad. And the first thing is, what sort of database are we going to be choosing here? And there are several databases. The main ones that we would look at, I will talk about later or maybe even in another video. There are going to be lots and lots of databases. And each of these databases has their own pros and cons. Some are far too big, some are far too specialist, and you need to be able to figure out which ones are you going to be choosing or using so that you can have the best literature review for your specific study. Once you've chosen those databases, the thing to remember is that this is not just type in a single word and see what happens, but you're going to have to use Boolean operators for precise searches. So look at things like and, or. You can also use nots in some of these scenarios. You can use quotation marks. So if you want exact phrases or a set of phrases for 3 or 4 words next to each other, you can use quotation marks. Sometimes this can be too restrictive. So again, you can use one phrase in quotation marks and then do and, or, and then a similar sort of phrase in a second set of quotation marks. And you can also use truncations. So you can use the first half of the word, and depending on the database, it's often a star or something similar at the end of the word that you can then use for variations of a specific word you might be looking for, and you're not sure which one you actually should be using. Once you've got your results, you're going to find that there are thousands and thousands of results that come up. And some of these are going to be good, some of these are going to be bad, and it's up to you to now figure out which ones are good and bad. I've said it before, and I'll probably say it a million times again, it all depends on what your study is. What you're going to have to do now is use these filters that are applicable to you, and these can be things like publication date. They might be sorted by an impact factor for a journal. You might filter it by some other criteria. It might be by location. It might even be by a specific author. Any way that you can get to simplify how many results you have to work with and how many you have to look through and not go through all the thousands and thousands. Once you've got these search results, one of the ways to then further organize it is to organize the results by citation count. So somebody before you has already read the paper or the papers, and because they thought that paper was good, they have cited it in a new study. So every time somebody references a document, it then gets a citation. That document then gets a citation count of +1. So the more times somebody else has referenced your work, the higher the citation count. So sometimes this can be to your benefit to organize those results to see which is the most popular article out there, but just note that the popularity is not always a good indicator. Sometimes the popular articles with the high citation counts are those that are controversial and say something incorrect, or something that's sort of a little bit out there just to get the attention. The other thing that you can often use here is what's called citation chaining. So if you see that there is a paper that you're interested and you then go either to the references or the citations, and I'll show you what we mean by that when you look at the online sources, who has come after them, who has come before the paper that you have found in your study. And what you can do is you can then look back or forward for a paper, looking in those references from that paper that you've gone forward or backwards for, and then either the references or the citations from that one. And again, you can go back, forward, depending which way you're looking at, and see by the title or the abstract which paper is actually more relevant for what you're looking for. One of the additional problems with the literature reviews and literature searches is that with online content, they are updated extremely often. So extremely often there are thousands of papers, new papers per month. So if you search today, tomorrow there are new papers coming out. That search term that you have used, you can sometimes save, and depending on where you found the paper, you may be able to set up email alerts either for specific keywords in a journal or in a database or something like that. You can also subscribe to specific journals for their table of contents. So if you find a journal that you think is really applicable to the line of work that you're in, they will send you an email once every month, once every few weeks, depending on how often the journal gets updated or there's a new issue in the journal. And then you can see, without going backwards every 5 minutes, to go and see if any new papers have come out. The whole purpose of this is to start using technology to our advantage. So instead of us going to do the manual work every few months, every few weeks to go and look to see what is new that's out there, we can get the technology to send us the emails and track the new research in a more efficient way. So I've maybe started this a little bit back to front. We haven't actually spoken about what databases we would be looking at. So when you go and you find a database, and there's several of these, Google Scholar being a big one, Scopus, there's ResearchGate, and the others that are in between those sort of quality of databases, you need to figure out what is the credibility of these platforms. For everything that is on that database or on that website, how did it get there in the first place? Is it accepting absolutely everything that's out there? And it will accept good papers, bad papers, papers that don't say anything at all? Or is there some sort of vetting process that will allow that journal article or that conference paper to land up on that platform? We also might want to look at what is the publication's peer review process. Is there such a thing? So if you're looking at Scopus, for example, everything on there has been peer reviewed to some degree, or often to a double blind peer review or double peer reviewed process. Whereas if you look at something like ResearchGate, everything on ResearchGate, or not everything, you can put something on ResearchGate yourself. You can write a 2-word paragraph and publish it or upload it onto some of these platforms, and it's available for everyone. So sometimes you don't necessarily want something that's fully peer-reviewed, but just keep that in mind when you're looking at the different websites. Who has actually had their peers or their colleagues look at the work, and what are websites that are just uploading anything and everything just to bulk up their viewership or readership. What you also want to make sure you're doing when you're taking online sources is that we want to make sure that you adhere to copyright and fair use guidelines. So when you're performing a literature review, if you find a nice diagram, a nice quote, a nice something, you obviously have to reference the source of where you got it. And if you are saying something that is 1 or 2 lines, that is, and I'm not going to say where the ethical line lies, that might be fair to quote 1 or 2 lines and then reference it at the end. Taking a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, the entire document and copying and pasting, that's no longer just an ethical issue, that's a straight plagiarism issue there at point 3. So please do not just take and copy and paste the entire paper or entire paragraphs at a time. The same thing is going to go for diagrams, pictures, and tables. So please don't just screenshot a nice diagram or a nice table that you see. In the journal that you have gotten this information from, there are often places where you can look for copyright approval if you're allowed to use the diagrams or the tables. If it is an open access journal, they may let you use the table or the figure as is, provided that you don't change it or provided that you quote it. But all of these sort of copyright and fair use guidelines will be in the journal on the page where you found the actual journal article. Some of these might require licensing agreements for certain materials, so you might have to email the journal itself or the author or something like that and ask for permission to use the documents that you're using or the material in the documents. It might be for free, it might be that there's a cost involved. Sometimes they will again say that you can use it as is, sometimes they say that you can't use it at all. Often if you are publishing for a journal and you copy a table and you go copy and paste a table, they will not accept that. They want you to redraw the table, so the table has to be done from scratch. Redraw the table in Word or whatever word processing tool you use and enter all the information line by line, cell by cell again. The thing with this is if you're going to be redrawing a table that you liked from a journal somewhere else and you're going to put it into your journal, yes, you must still reference it. But I'm sure you can be a little bit more creative and combine 2 tables from different sources or add your own information or add something else to make that table unique and stand out a little bit more, sort of to add onto what others have done before you and make it a little bit more valuable than just doing a copy and paste if you're going to all of that effort anyway. The next big thing that's been talked about a lot these days is the whole AI thing. So just keep an eye out for these emerging trends in online research, and this goes beyond literature review and research and anything else that we're chatting about in these videos. is that there's AI for almost everything these days. Please keep an eye out for any new digital research platforms or AI tools or anything like that, particularly the open access repositories. Where can you get information quickly, easily, and understand it? There are a lot of tools out there as well, things that will summarize papers for you or summarize topics. Even the well-known databases like Scopus have something like a Scopus AI tool these days to help you find things. Notebook LM, they can even help you summarize papers. There are other tools that can do it and give you insights into it. You can ask them questions about the research, and it'll spit something back out at you. Please be careful when you're using any AI, depending on why you are doing a literature research or an online research project in the first place. If it's just for your own interest, then that might be fair enough. But as soon as you start writing things down and you're going to be doing a little bit more than deepening your own knowledge, double check what any AI tool tells you and just go and find the source yourself and see what it says. Don't believe everything that the technology is spitting back at you, please. In all of these things, though, make sure you keep your search queries focused and specific. Librarians are still extremely useful sources of information. Universities still have libraries where there are books, good old-fashioned books. Don't just ignore the books. Please go and look at the books anyway. Librarians are fully aware that we are moving away from books, print books, and we've got ebooks and all the rest of it. And their knowledge is quite advanced, much more advanced than mine is. And they are able to help you with these advanced searches, the advanced tools. So make use of every available aspect of things that you've got. In the next video, I'm going to go through a few of the online databases themselves, and I'm going to show you some of the ways that we can use them. I will not look at all of the databases, but just some of them that you can potentially look at and use, especially if you're in the sciences, engineering, because that is where my background is, and I'll be able to help a little bit more there than some of the others that I might miss.